Hello and welcome to my second video log. In this video log I will take a closer look at the level generation because the level or the map so to say is actually a very important part of the tower defense game because everything is actually based on the map. All the monsters needs to walk around on the map, the player needs to walk around on the map, and we also need to be able to place our towers on the map as well. So the tiles that our map will consist of will be very important to us because these tiles will also be a big part of our actual pathfinding as well. So I am thinking to take these tiles here in my folder and create them or make them into prefabs, and then make some sort of script that can take these tiles and place them in my level here in my scene. So basically these tiles here will need to be placed according to the camera so that my level will always be generated on the camera, and then I will also have to make sure that my camera can't leave the level because the level might be bigger than the camera's viewport. So basically I will also have to take into account if the camera can move around so that we can place our towers outside the edge of the camera as well and everything. So basically I will need to make a script or something that can take the tiles and place them from the top left corner here, like so, and it should fill up the whole map just like I'm doing here with my mouse slowly. So this is what our script should be able to do for us, and it shouldn't be that hard for me to write a script like that. It's basically just a couple of loops that will define our map. But the challenge here is to figure out how we should define the map. I'm thinking about making some sort of text document and put it in the resource folder, and this text document will define how many tiles we need and which kind of tiles we need. So we can define that this tile, grass 1 here, for example, if the text document contains a 1, well then we need to place this kind of tile, and if it's a 2 we need to place sand and so on. So I'm actually just gonna make that resource folder. It's called resources, and in here I simply just wanna add some kind of text document or something, and then add all the functionality in there. So I can just click and create a new text document and call it level. And in this document we will need to add something. For example, if we say we want some level that looks something like this, so this could define a level that says that the first tile is 1, the next is 4, the next is 1, and so on. And then on the next tile line we'll start with a 1 and a 5 and so on. So the script should be able to read this and then create a level for us. So we'll see how we can actually make some functionality that can read this for us. But first of all I'll need to create some prefab from all these. Okay, so I have added a couple of scripts here to my game. I've added a script for adding the level, creating the level called level manager. And basically my level manager is just a game object here that takes in some different tiles, all these tile prefab that I created out of the sprites. You could argue that you could make one tile and then just simply just change the sprite out of it, one prefab and change the sprite. But I've chosen to make one prefab for each just to make it easier. So this level manager here has a reference to all the tiles, and I figured that was the easiest way to go. And basically I just added a map to the a map object to the scene, so that all my level will be placed under this map here, so they're not making a lot of mess inside the hierarchy here. So this map is basically just to clean up stuff. So I made level manager script that places the tiles here. It's nothing special, it just makes a Y and X. Two for loops that places the tiles. And then basically I have a read level text that takes the text from my text file and places it in a string so that I can read it. And as you can see here, I split it on, if I can zoom so you can see a little better, I split it on a dash here so that I know when the next line begins. So of course all this will be gone through in details in the tutorial. This is just the video log that just like goes over it very quickly. So of course this is not going to be an explanation of how the code works in details. Anyway, I figured that the best way would be to write this text document here, and in here it decides which kind of tile that I want to place. So you can see 1 here is the first tile and 4 is the fourth tile, of course. So this text file here actually makes up my actual level, and every time I make a new line, I make this dash here. As you saw before, I was splitting on that dash inside my script. So I know that I need to start a new line of tiles. So this is just a test run. So basically, as you can see here, I am creating a map here based on the text document I have. As you can see, this is 1 and this is 4. So 1 is the green tile and 4 is the path here. So as you can see here, the map is not placed in the correct position right now because the camera, as you can see, it's right up here, and the map starts in the center of the camera. We will have to move the map to the top left corner here at some point, and we will have to be able to move around with our camera here. So that's the next little thing I need to do. And if you just want to see, I can change this for its path. So if I would change all these 1s with 4s, say we delete these 3 ones and do like this, then you can see if I save this and load the game again, then you'll see that there will be more sand path here. So you can see in the top here, there's sand here now instead of the green grass as I had before. But I'm just going to go back to my 1s here. Okay, so this is how I'm generating my levels for now. Maybe we're going to change it later, but for now it's actually a very good way of testing it and making some different levels. Also, I figured that it would be a good idea to create a tile script. So each tile has the script on it and it has a grid position. So one thing I want to tell you about is also the way I'm making my grid, or the way I'm getting coordinates for my grid, because actually normally when you have a coordinate system, you start with 0 in the bottom, and when you go up the coordinate system, y gets higher. So this is like down here we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 and 6 and so on. But actually, because of an old habit, the way I learned to program, we learned to program old school, without any game engines, just like clean Windows Forms, and in Windows Forms or any basic stuff, the coordinate system is actually turned upside down. So the y value increases when you go down and it decreases when you go up. So basically when I count in my grid, I actually start with 0 here. So this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is like minus up. So we just flip our coordinate system. And that's the way I've always been working. And that's the way I keep working in my stuff when I create something, because it's the way I'm thinking and it's the way I learned to think. So if I flip it around to be normal, then I might make some mistakes later because I'm used to having it flipped upside down. So some of you might ask why we ever flipped it upside down. I'm not 100% sure why it is because I haven't read up on it, but I think I've heard some of my old teachers telling me that it was because of the old monitors you have. Back in the days, they started refreshing from the top left corner of the screen. So the top left corner of the screen was actually 0.0, and then they just went from top to the right and then went down and took the next line when it was refreshing and was rendering whatever you had on your screen. And back then the coordinate system was flipped upside down because of that top left 0 point. And that's the same thing I'm doing here. And also often when I use sprites, I also work with them as the top left corner as the 0.0 point. Yes, okay, so now we have a level we can generate from a text document. The next thing I'm going to have a look at is how I can place this text document in the top left corner of my camera. And then after that, I will add some movement so I can move around in my map. So later when we have created our map, we can start looking at the more fun things, at adding some enemies, moving them around, and also animating them and so on. Okay, so it actually didn't take a lot of code to fix this, to make sure that things spawn in the top left corner, because basically I had a world start position before, and before I just had it as 0.0, which is the middle of the screen. So instead of doing that, I simply just figured out where is the top left corner of my camera, and my top left corner of my camera can find by camera screen point world. Okay, I'm gonna try again. Camera main screen to world point, and And basically that's what I used to figure out where the first tile will start. And because of my script that always increases the position, this will actually make everything spawn in the top left corner and then make the map from that point. So as you can see here, wherever I have my camera, this tile set is what this map is going to be generated. So if I have my camera here, it actually starts in the top left corner. It's a little hard to see, but the camera actually starts up here, which means that if I would take my main camera and move it somewhere over here and down here, when I play my game, the map will always be based on the camera's position. So that's very good. But I still can't move around. Right now, I want to add some functionality so that I can actually take my camera and move it around on the map here. And then later we'll need to make sure we don't move off screen. So first of all, let's try to add some movement functionality here. Okay, so I just created a movement script, and this is very, very simple. It's just a normal script that looks at the input and it takes a speed in, and then it just moves the camera up, down, left, right. There's no limitation of it anymore right now, but this is a simple script that will move the camera around on the screen. So if I would take this camera movement script I created and just add it to my camera, everything should actually work for moving. So I can add it to the camera and try to give it some speed. I don't know how much. Let's try it here. And now you can see I can move my camera around. Let's try 10 speed instead. And there we have it. So now we have a script that can move our camera around on the map, but we will have to make some functionality so that the camera actually stops when it gets to the edge here. And I think one of the challenges here is going to figure out how take the camera's position and figure out the viewport size and everything so that it doesn't go over the edge over here. So I will try to take a closer look at that and show you how it turns out. So before I actually show you that, I also want to tell you about my idea of what I need to do. Because if we look at the map here, the bottom right tile here is the last tile that we're placing. So I need to use this tile somehow to figure out how far my camera can go to the right and how far the camera can go to the bottom of the screen. So basically I can take the position of this tile and take the width of it and figure out what position, X position this has, this edge here, to figure out how far my camera's edge over here can go in my world. So the edge position of this shouldn't, the edge position of the camera should never go higher than the edge position of this tile here. And the bottom here, also the edge of the bottom, it's also an indicator of how far down this edge of the camera can go. So basically I can use that as a pointer to figure out how far I can go down and how far I can go to the right. And I also think that I can figure out that this is my 0.0. If my camera starts in 0, then I will know that my camera will never be able to go negative value or negative value up here. But yeah, let's take a look at it and then I'll show you the result. So I actually managed to make sure that the camera doesn't run over its borders, and without getting too technical, because this is not a tutorial, so it's going to be a little boring to go in too much into the code when you're not writing it along with me. What I actually did was to find the bottom tile here and then just tell the camera that this is the edge tile or the last tile that you can go to, and then just make a function inside the camera that makes sure that the camera will never go over the edge of this. So in short, I just made a function called set limits to the camera that takes in the position of the tile in the bottom right corner, and then it just sets up this max position of the camera, and then I used a clamp function inside the update here to make sure that the camera doesn't go over the borders here. And of course this is going to be explained in details and how it works in the tutorial. And then I had to take my tiles and then put them inside something called a dictionary so that I can grab the last tile, because when I'm done creating all my tiles, I simply get the tile that is in the bottom right corner by accessing the tiles dictionary, which contains all my tiles. And then I just pass that maximum tile onto my camera so it knows how far it can go. And as you can see here, we have a map now where we can move around with our camera without going over the edge or over the border of the camera, of the map. So this is basically the setup of our map, and basically all our tiles here has a grid position that gets set, so it has X, Y, and X and Y positions, so that we can use it for pathfinding later. So in the next video log, I will be showing you what I did to basically add the player to the game so that he can move around on this grid here, and then later we're going to take a look at the monsters and everything. So maybe this beginning here is a little boring because it's just setting up the map and it's not that interesting, but it is going to be more interesting when we start to add monsters and add damage and so on. So thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to check out the blog on my website. And if you like my videos, then please remember to subscribe to my channel, like my Facebook page, and follow me on Twitter. Also check out my channel for other videos. I have lots of tutorial videos for Unity, so if you just stumble upon this video and you want to learn how to program, well, then check out some of my tutorials, please. Again, thank you very much for watching.